Dear guests, welcome to Aid and Development Meetup. We start our event dedicated to successful restoration projects in local communities supported by international and local partners. This event will be bilingual, so if you need a simultaneous translations, you can take your headphones over there. My name is Hanna Shishkina, and before the Russian war started, I was 20-year experienced event organizer. And now I have an experience not only of conducting events, successful events during the wartime in Ukraine, but also I'm responsible for investor and donor relations in our ReBuild Ukraine project. And when in May 2022 we started to prepare our first ReBuild conducted later here in Warsaw, we even did not imagine how many international organizations can help us in very various ways. And since that time, we understood that this is a real development, international development community helping us to restore and not to suffer so much in Ukraine. We call all these people VDs, Visitors for Development. And if you see someone in this hall, people with green badges, with VD letters on it, you can know that these people can help and facilitate your recovery projects in very, very different ways. The main recipients of ReBuild Ukraine are local communities of Ukraine. We call them hromadas in Ukrainian. And these hromadas are the most promising recipients of international help and finances. Many of them really understand that it is not enough only to rebuild just objects of first necessity. They need their communities to be restored in very sustainable way. And a basic level to make the settlement livable, is it not enough to hold people there and to bring back our IDPs left this community before. And solving these complex problems with deoccupied communities and their infrastructure, we understand that the key task of every community is keeping residents, make their lives better. So the next level, not only critical infrastructure, but also social infrastructure. We need schools, kindergartens, medical facilities, cultural institutions, and even service sectors. And if there are enough people living in community, preconditions for development of local business are already there, and new jobs will be created. So the Ukrainian hierarchy, the Ukrainian levels are there: critical infrastructure, social infrastructure, and supporting businesses that create new jobs in hromadas. Rebuilding and modernizing each level of this pyramid is a fundamental condition for retaining and bringing Ukrainian back home. We keep in mind that every level matters. We need 2 R's: to rebuild, to retain, and to return our people back home. Today's event is a series of cases where donors and recipients will be sharing their successful cases, taking successful cases of restoration, critical infrastructure, mostly. So let me start with an inspiring video that answers the question why. Why we are all here to help Ukrainians. And Mr. Hansen offers us his answer. Please start the video about Hansen Ukrainian mission.
Hi, I'm Julie Hansen, and this is my husband, Deloy Hansen. When the war broke out in Ukraine, we decided we needed to visit and see what we could do to help many of the internally displaced people. When we got to Ukraine, it was overwhelming, the emotions and the devastation that had occurred for many families. They were left without homes, they had nothing. So we formed a program that we called Dignity Dollars, and it allowed families to have the resources they needed to continue to live. My husband, Deloy, is a builder.
I built over 10,000 affordable housing units for elderly, seniors, and families.
We're not just building homes, we're building communities where people support and help one another.
We began building IDP housing, internally displaced person homes, where they could live rent-free and reestablish their lives. We built a village called Hanson Village that now houses over 1,500 people and I think has 430 homes. These have from orphan families to military veterans to widows to all of those who have been displaced by the evil of this war. We plan to double that village into what we call Hanson Village 2 that will now become 900 homes with schools, clubhouse, swimming pools, a medical clinic, and a 1,200 student school. We are looking to partner with many large international organizations as we speak to build 1,200 of these units by the summer of 2026. Another program that we saw great need for is we visited the shelters where the elderly were being housed in less than dignified conditions. We saw the need to build a village. We found the name for this village, the Chudo Village, or the Miracle Village. And in the city of Kolonshina, we launched the Chudo Village. We are committed to building 1,000 homes for the elderly. We need your help also. We also have bought existing apartments that we have put over 250 people into what we call the Hanson Apartments, what we call affordable housing for Ukrainian families. We need your help to help us fund the mortgage or the grant that is serviced by the income from people paying half rent. This is our home ownership program that we plan to introduce this year, and over the next 18 months build 600 homes on small lots that people can have 2, 3, 4-bedroom homes and have their own land and own that home again. Our last program is that we want to partner with the government and the lending community to create mortgages, a very low interest mortgage, that we can help people buy their homes again. We will be building 8 projects of 1,000 to 1,200 units that we call affordable housing. From Kolonshina, Chudo Village, to Hanson Village, to Puhivka, to Sofia Borshehivska. These are 4 areas that we're building model villages that you'll be able to emulate and copy. look forward to the chance to show this beautiful vision of a regenerated, rebuilt, stronger, democratic, and loving Ukraine.
It is an honor for me to invite Mr. Deloy Hansen, the founder of the Versace Group and founder of Hansen Ukrainian Mission. Please go to the stage. The microphone is there. Thank you very much for this inspiring video. And also I invite Mrs. Lesia Karnauch, Deputy Head of the Kyiv Regional State Administration. You are welcome, Lesia.
I'm grateful to be here at this conference, and it has been so much more successful than we would have hoped. We came needing to find near 200 million in commitments to build the vision of a stronger Ukraine where people can move forward and have affordable rent and homes that they own. We put this vision in front of many people here at the conference, and I can tell you this conference has been a dream come true. I'd like to mention some of the key people that have helped us and have made commitments to go forward. From the Philips Company, Olesia Strak and Miroslav Saban have given donations towards the medical clinics in a very large way. We want to thank the Philips Company. DFC, Agnes Dasovich and Tony Polak are fully committed to reaching a major funding goal to help people achieve home ownership through a rent-to-own program and a reduced rent. Instead of paying $300 a month rent, people with limited incomes recovering from the war would pay half rent and give them a chance to live in dignified housing affordably. We have with EBRD, Irina Kravchenko and Oleg Fedulin have been more than helpful and spent the evening with us strategizing how they can bring their resources to this very project, and we're grateful to them. I met an angel in the flesh in Lena Kosarny that runs Horizon Capital in Kiev and Chicago, and I know we have now found a capital partner and a lender and an advocate that will be with us at every step of the way, and I'm grateful to this conference for bringing us together. We have here my dear friend for the last 3 years, Lesia Karnauch. I work on that because I got to get the uke right, Karnauch every time. And Ruslan Kravchenko. Is Ruslan here? Ruslan is the governor of Kiev, and I can tell you that they have been instrumental in helping us get through all of the necessary red tape to build these programs, and they've been with us every step of the way ethically. Again, I want to thank the U.S. State Department. We met with the top official of the U.S. Department today for an hour, Richard Verma, and again, we got an outstanding pledge of support from the U.S. government. So I am grateful for this conference. I had no idea we would meet so many people that are so committed and so ready to work to fill out the program that we see for a better Ukraine. I'm not going to speak about the programs here. I want to speak about the people, And I want to invite Petro to come up. Is he here, Petro? I'm going to have Petro stand here with me. And I'm going to tell you Petro's story. I'm going to tell you two stories, and that will be my speech. When we opened Hanson Village, the first 4 people to move in, 3 were prisoners that had been released from Avastal, that the Russians had taken over the steel mill in Mariupol, and they had been prisoners for about 16 to 18 months. And they were defeated, skinny, traumatized, and out of work. I can tell you all 3 of them today have jobs, are optimistic and moving forward. But there was one family, the very first family that moved in, and that was Petro's wife, Olena, and his 3 children, 2 daughters and a 10-year-old son. I'll never forget the 10-year-old son looking in his eyes as he moved in, the loss of not having a father. When they moved into the village, we did not know if he was alive. We did not know if he was still there. We had no information, but we all prayed. And I can tell you that 3 months ago, he was returned in a prisoner exchange and came back to his family. So from total devastation, they both have a job, their children are in school, and they are looking for ways to move on with their lives. I have seen firsthand from total devastation, total loss and pain, to coming back. But I want to tell you one more story that's important as I go to my next point. When we met, he could not speak. We were in a luncheon a month after he returned, and his speech was very broken, very stuttered, and he had been tortured for 24 months daily. People that stay behind or are left behind in prisons, in occupied territories, or in Russian control are like Holocaust victims to me. They are part of the genocide of destroying the Ukrainian race, and we cannot be silent. I have seen firsthand over 600 people, families from the occupied territories, come into our villages, and I am horrified at what I have had to see. I'm going to share one example. Some of you have heard it because I've said it before. In August, we moved a mother, 42 years old, and her 19-year-old daughter into the village in a traumatized state. They were in Zaporizhia, and they had refused a Russian passport. The mother was taken to the basement, beat with a stick, stripped naked, and they hooked electrodes to her genitals and her breasts and shocked her until she was unconscious. They then took her daughter and raped her, and then threw them in a dark cell for 2 days before releasing them to a citizen group that had worked to get them released from captivity. 3 weeks later, they found their way to Hanson Village, and I was able to hold them and cry with them through the torture that they had received from this evil, evil empire in Russia that can have, that for me, can never be trusted at all. Now, as we talk of settling and giving land for peace, we cannot give people for peace. There are 4 million Ukrainians trapped in the occupied territories. While we're here in a comfortable conference in our suits and with good food, 4 million Ukrainians suffer daily at the hands of the FSB and the Russian occupiers. We all have to stand together to demand that they are released in any settlement. We cannot leave 4 million Ukrainians in the occupied territories that would like to return to Ukraine. Our real mission is to have the housing, the communities that they can move to free Ukraine and become productive parts of Ukraine again. That is what this conference is for me, is to find housing and a place for refugees and occupied Ukrainians to return to free Ukraine. And we should all stand for that. And that is why I will give everything. Like the founding fathers in America, that when they declared independence, they declared that they would sacrifice their fortunes, their sacred honor for the sake of freedom. I make a similar pledge to my Ukrainian brothers and sisters. I will sacrifice all for your freedom, because this is what it means. Thank you.
Thank you. Of course, it's very difficult to continue after so powerful, sensitive speech and video, but I will try to describe the situation, current situation in the key region, to show how is important for us to implement such projects. This is one of the best examples how we can serve to people, not to the institutions, states, territory, defense, or something like that, to people. The main idea of the whole existing, the whole world is to create conditions for life being for our people. And in key region, we are trying to use this approach and to create home and to create communities with soul, with atmosphere, with all facilities, with social infrastructure, and mainly with social networks. This is the main idea. And we have a very big need in that. I will take my clicker. I'm sorry to show the presentation, which I have already prepared. So, from the beginning of the full-scale invasion, our region accepted more than 250,000 internally displaced persons. Every week, new trains came from the east and south part of Ukraine. So actually, key region is very unique because we have the similar population as it was before the full-scale invasion. It's around 3 million of people. But we have been occupied by Russian barbarians from the beginning. And you can see on the slide how many buildings and houses were destroyed or crucially damaged or even devastated. We have few villages which was devastated totally. This is an empty place, just debris there. But despite that, all these circumstances, we are a very attractive region, and people want to live not far from Kiev. People want to be here because we have a very developed infrastructure, a very developed economy, and people need to have money for living. That's why we should to create the work space for them, job opportunities create for them. And it's very difficult to implement when you are alone. That's why we are looking partners around the world. We created some temporary places for living. At the beginning of this scareful invasion, a lot of people drastically lose their houses, and that's why we created the modular places where we located not so many people, but of course we're looking for the sustainable solutions where our people can live as a people, not as a human, not like on the temporary base. So we created some local project, some program. We allocated some money in our own local budget, but of course, it's not enough because the level of damages in our region is huge, actually. And also, as far as you know, that the half, or almost the biggest part of our budget we spent on the defense, our country, on our military forces, because it's not allowed for us to use money which came from our international partners on the military forces. So we spent our own money, and the level of restoration in our region so big that we definitely could not cover the whole need that we need, that we are looking for the partner around the world. We have a few examples in the key region. So we trying to use the existing facilities in a good conditions and try to restore them and to reconstruct them and to give the temporary places where our internally displaced person can be, but not to live. I just want to notice that. So we modernized some dormitories, we built some new apartments, we created some social hotel, and you can see how it was. And this is the example how we implement our projects, but then we met Deloy and his team. And then we realized what does it mean, the real life and real community with dignity. Because the people who live in Hansen village, in Chudo village, and who will live in the next projects, they receive not only house, they receive not only facilities, schools or kindergartens, they receive hope and they receive dignity, the most important thing. And the social impact of this project is it's very difficult to evaluate even. You just need to feel, and you can feel it when you visit. Every time when I visit Hansen village, I cry, I smile, I hug with children in these absolutely amazing places. And it also motivates me as a representative of local authority to move ahead and to work harder on a daily basis, because I want to reach such results as we reach together. And thankfully for the decision of the Deloy, we also have started the new project, and we want to invite partners into realization and implementation of the project. A lot of our Ukrainians, a lot of my people suffered from this war. They were injured and they are still receive different traumas from the constant attacks from the Russians. And we have in Ukraine few examples, good clinics like Superhumans and Unbroken, but they are located on the west part of the Ukraine, and Kyiv definitely needs the same facilities. And we have launched project to build new clinics, new modern, absolutely amazing clinic for orthotic prosthetic needs, and with laboratory, with surgeries, with modern equipment. And thank you for the Hansen mission, for the Deloy. Yesterday we signed an MOU with Philips, and they will provide some equipment for that, but we need still more, because we want to implement the full cycle of rehabilitation, the full cycle of treatment, not only the physical rehabilitation. We want to include also the mental rehabilitation, because that after they are spending some time in that clinics, I want to see happy and smile citizens of Kyiv region. So thank you very much. We invite you to join to our common journey and to reach hope, dignity, and victory for my country.
Thank you very much, and we have a limit of time, but it is always time for one very, very needed question. Do you have such a question?
Hello, my name is Dr. Julie Lawson. I'm the lead author of the UN report, Housing 2030. In that report, on 56 countries across the UNEC region, are best practices for supporting sustainable models of affordable rental housing. Everyone is inspired by what you have done. It's incredible. But we know it takes more than just philanthropy. We need a system that actually could take over all the things you've been trying to achieve. We see in Europe that there are such models, for example, in Denmark, in Finland, in Austria, in Germany, in France. They're called the cost recovery and revolving fund models. I would really encourage the city and other cities like Kiev and Lviv, who's here in the audience, consider a sustainable operating model which is socially inclusive, not just for extremely poor people, but also has the broad shoulders of the stronger and the weaker together. So I'm actually also working for EU Starter, which is the technical assistance of the European Commission to support the drafting of a good law for social housing in Ukraine. Thank you for your inspiration, very much for your inspiration, to show that it can be done and that the principles of social inclusion, also financial sustainability, are really, really important. So to take it forward, we need a good model, and I would suggest, please, do look at the growing, resilient models in Europe. Best ones, take for Ukraine. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Do you have some
I would
feedback?
respond that we looked at, first we needed to take care of people with no income, that they were landing with no jobs, devastated psychological profiles, and they needed simply a place to be safe and home. But we've watched that in Hanson Village, in one short year, 530 people have employment. But in most cases, not enough employment to pay market rents and move from transitional housing. So we do have what we call affordable housing. They call it social housing in Europe. In America, we call it affordable housing. That will be 50% of the rent. And in the beginning, it will be for IDPs, because there is no really good social housing program that I've observed for the elderly in particular and lower income people to get into it. And so what we're starting to is having a first step to build 1,000 low-income housing with support from international lenders that will lend 80% at low interest, and there will be sufficient income because we will have a sustainable operating program, meaning the operation expenses will be paid for from a trust, so more of the money can go to sustaining the mortgage, which lowers the available rent payment. If you'd normally pay $300, we expect you'd pay $150, and your income would be under $600 a month, or it will be a formula that is inclusive. But we believe, like you do, that in America, 30 to 40% of all apartment housing is affordable housing. If I saw 400,000 homes today in Ukraine, I would say less than 1% are deemed what we would call affordable housing. So we are leading that charge, and we look forward to that as the next step, creating affordable housing so people can get on the ladder to prosperity. Second, we met with lenders that will do subsidized rent-to-own programs, meaning we have a program now, if you pay 15 years of rent, you own your home. But you don't have to sign a mortgage, you don't have to qualify, you just simply have to pay your $300 a month rent and it becomes your home. And if at 5 years you need to sell, you can pay the difference and sell the home. But this is a first of its kind in Ukraine to help people who have lost their homes and need a pathway back to home ownership that is not through a gift. We have gifted many homes, over 500, but it's not a total solution. We also need a way for people to earn their homes through a more traditional payment program that is affordable to a vast majority. So that is the next leg, is an affordable home ownership entry program. And we have met with lenders that we think we can build 1,200 of those homes over the next year and a half. So we're on the path to getting up the cycle of home ownership, affordable housing, and not just transitional. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We are now out of time for questions. Thank you, Deloy, for your contribution and for your chances you gave to thousands of people of Ukraine. Дякую, Леся, за те, що ви так ефективно співпрацюєте з такими цінними міжнародними партнерами.
thank you, Lesia, for cooperating so effectively with such partners as Deloitte. Thank you very much.